All right, everyone. We are really honored today to have Andrew Temte from Kaplan Incorporated kick us off into the next session. Andrew is the author of the recently released Balancing Act, where he recounts his experiences and how he learned from them to formulate a strategy of continuous personal growth, both from his family or with his family and his business. And so I've already downloaded it on Kindle. This is a great resource for all of us to take a look at as we navigate this complex world where we're finding ourselves constantly trying to find balance. I know I am. Andrew's the president and global head of corporate learning at Kaplan, and he spearheads their efforts to help students become ready for the workforce, as well as in helping companies become successful by attracting the right talent and upskilling and reskilling their workforces. And today he's going to talk to us about tactics we can leverage to navigate the reskilling revolution, which is center stage for all of us right now. So welcome, Andrew. It's really good to have you here. Excited
Thanks,
for your
Brandon.
talk. I'll just add, folks, if you have questions, please go ahead and start throwing them in the Q&A as Andrew begins his discussion, and then I'll be sure to bring them forward. And right now, Andrew, it's your stage. Take it away.
Super. Well, I'm excited to talk for about the next probably 20-25 minutes. I've got some prepared remarks and a few slides to get through, but I'm really interested in the conversation that follows. In addition to Brandon's introductory remarks about my background, I'm the former chief executive of a division of Kaplan called Kaplan Professional. So I've spent the last 22 years with Kaplan, and I've had most of myself embedded in the professional education space, which is all about licensures, designations, and certifications to help show signals of workplace competency through licensures and designations. I've also spent time on the higher ed side. I've been the president of a small college in New Hampshire, as well as the president of the College of Business and Technology for the old Kaplan University, which is now Purdue Global after the sale of Kaplan University to Purdue of what is now almost 5 years ago. So today's talk is the reason for kind of letting everybody know that my experience is both in professional ed and higher ed is that I'm going to make some remarks that from a higher ed perspective may seem heretical to some in that space. And we're going to talk all about skills today and the reskilling revolution that we're currently in. So I'm going to share my screen, and Brandon will give me the thumbs up that everybody can see my screen. Awesome. And I love all the thumbs up that are coming from the bottom. Nice. So moving to the first slide, I serve on the Skills Consortium at World Economic Forum. That's one of the things that the geopolitical organizations that I'm involved with. And this is alongside companies like Open Classrooms and Coursera. The former edX was a member, now 2U. So a rich tapestry of online learners, online learning organizations plugged into and consulting with World Economic Forum on their reskilling revolution. What you're seeing on this slide are some of the statistics directly from their Building a Common Language for Skills at Work paper that came out earlier this year. The reskilling revolution kicked off back in early 2019, a term coined by World Economic Forum. And I've seen in other presentations this concept of the fourth industrial revolution in this conference, which is also a term that was coined by the folks at WEF. We can argue all day about whether or not these statistics of 50% of all employees will need to be reskilled by 2025, or 40% of skills are expected to change within the next 5 years. But it's the directionality of all of those statistics. I sat in on Rence's conversation on AI earlier today, and the reskilling revolution and this fourth industrial revolution is different than previous significant disruptions to the supply and demand equation in the world of work, because now we're talking about computers that can think at very low but ever increasing cognitive levels. And that is going to take more and more of the technical aspects of our job will be taken by computers that can think at low cognitive levels. So we're all going, as human beings, the reskilling revolution is all about ensuring the relevance of the human being in the world of work as we progress forward. The second slide this is a real eye chart, and please don't try to dive in. This is from WEF's jobs Future of Jobs survey that came out in early 2020. They do this study every 2 years, so they constantly refresh this. And the point to be made on this particular slide is that the top skills for 2025 and the top skills for the future they bend much more toward the behavioral than they do the technical. So one of the key points I'll keep driving home in this conversation is that the relevance of humans in the world of work, in the future world of work, depends upon our ability to grow a portfolio of behavioral skills that keep us relevant in the workplace. So you can see, number one is analytical thinking and innovation. Number two is active learning and learning strategies. Number three is complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, originality, etc. Earlier this summer, McKinsey came out with their paper called Defining the Skills Citizens Will Need in the Future World of Work. And their story, they've got 56 skills in their taxonomy. And their top skills are things like empathy and humility and conflict resolution, communication, active listening, creativity, adaptability. You know, you're starting to see the trend here in all of these studies. So I recommend that you look up McKinsey's study as well as what WEF has come out with. I'd also, before I get really deep into this next slide, I'd also like to point out another piece of literature that has come out just in the last couple of weeks. And that's the Wall Street Journal article from 2 or 3 Mondays ago that talked about boys and young men in the educational system and how boys and young men are being left behind in our educational systems. And that starts in primary school, goes into secondary school, moves into higher education. The Wall Street Journal article was all about higher education and how roughly 60+% of all participants in higher education are now female, which is awesome. But if men are left behind in that equation, which they are doing at an ever increasing rate, we are going to have societal challenges. We need balance between male and female. And Jennifer, I see that's why you homeschool your son. I'm actually a high school dropout. So just let that sink in for a moment. I left high school in the 11th grade because there was no room for me to continue my studies. I had taken all the advanced classes. I couldn't get into college yet, and I was facing a lot of home economics and shop class in my last 18 months in high school. So I decided to go try to be a rock star instead, which didn't work out very well, as you can tell. But both of my sons had challenges in high school. They felt very lost, left behind, not cared for, and so we need different pathways into the world of work. This concept, and I am guilty of it. I have said these words to my children. My sons are named Brandon and Nick, and I looked at both of them and I said, you need a college education to succeed in the future world of work. And I wish at the time that there were alternative pathways, viable alternative pathways into the world of work. But realistically, and it still exists today, the college degree is one of several, but we need more viable pathways. Another thing, I'll just put in a plug, and if you can help the attendees here, if you can help influence this in your homes, in your conversations, we have got to stop telling our children that you got to go to college. Johnny, you got to go to college. You got to go to college. You got to get a degree. Because what we're doing is we're turning our young people off to technical school, to the trades, and these are all very, very viable career options that we're making to be less than acceptable in society. So we've got to change that. Now, what's the alternative? I believe that the alternative is a portfolio of demonstrated and validated skills that are backed by experiential learning, and we need to bend the arc of the learn-work equation from I go and I learn, and then I approach the job market, and then I work. We need to change that to adopt what I call work to learn models, where, yes, you graduate high school, maybe you go to first year of college, first year of technical school, and then companies open up pathways through apprenticeships and through other forms of experiential learning, where you start to work and then you learn on the job and you stack credentials on top of one another like Lego bricks. And if that leads to a degree, then awesome. But it shouldn't have to lead to a degree. So most of the rest of my remarks are going to center around what can we do as learning leaders, as HR leaders, as business leaders, to affect meaningful change, to be able to adopt skill portfolios as an alternative to the degree. Now, shifting gears slightly, I'd like to explain in a bit more depth where World Economic Forum is to try to influence this. And so earlier this year, with the help of the Skills Consortium that I sit on, World Economic Forum has developed a skills taxonomy. And like most taxonomies, you start with competencies, you break competencies down into skills, knowledge, ability, and attitudes. There are other tweaks to this, but that's essentially what a competency structure looks like. And they have built a multi-level skills taxonomy, and this is directly from They're building a common language for skills at work, which was published in January of 2021. You can go on World Economic Forum site and download this paper, and I strongly recommend that you do. The taxonomy is, again, a multi-level taxonomy where they start with level 1, which is breaking competencies down into the 4 component parts, and then breaking knowledge and skills down at level 2, and then level 3, level 4, level 5. Ultimately down, you can drill down level 6, level 7, level 8, really get at the individual skill level. World Economic Forum made a conscious decision to stop their taxonomy at level 5 to allow for flexibility of the adoption of their taxonomy by institutions, by businesses, and by governments around the world. This particular view into the taxonomy is a drill down into the technology and web development angle, but you can imagine a much richer taxonomy. And if you were in Rent's Terwije, his presentation earlier, you saw a map, you saw a knowledge map of the technical space, and I know Chemo fairly well, and the work that they've been doing. I strongly recommend that you take a look at Chemo and the work that they're doing in the AI space. So what does this mean to you? Well, World Economic Forum is actively searching for signatories to adopt a skills-based approach to hiring and learning within institutions, corporations, and governments. And they already have a fairly large portfolio of companies, major corporations that have signed on and to adopt both their skills taxonomy, as well as sign on for what's called their Skills Link Alliance. And I'll explain a little bit more about what the Skills Link Alliance means in just a couple of minutes. But the 4 light blue boxes at the top of this slide, those represent the commitments that a Skills Link Alliance company, institution, or government will sign up for. Adopting a common language for skills, which is what the taxonomy is all about. Recognizing skills in the hiring function, and we'll talk more about that later. Delivering skills-based learning within your company, and then using skills-based approaches to measure, monitor performance, and have performance conversations with your people. And then right in the center is to turn skills into a currency in the labor market. And they believe, as I do, that this will provide better signals of job market fit, promote greater diversity in the workplace, because whether we like it or not, colleges and universities and Johnny, Billy, Susie go get a degree, that continues to promote an elitist aspect to the job market and puts up significant barriers to entry, whether we mean them or not, to the job market, and it keeps large swaths of the population pushed down and left behind. So this is all about creating and promoting greater diversity in the workplace, and improving organizational agility, et cetera. We'll hit on those things more in just a moment. This Skills Link Alliance is a consortium of in-person learning providers, both in companies and external providers, online learning providers like Coursera, like Kaplan, like Open Classrooms, et cetera, industry and employer accelerators, which you can learn more about at WEF and then government and country accelerators. So this diagram is simply meant to show the interconnectedness of this ecosystem and this environment that WEF is looking to create. And then finally, if you, as a learning leader or as an executive, if you are interested in learning more about the skills taxonomy, if you're interested in learning more about Skills Link as a marketplace, and that's what so that if you didn't get from the last slide, that Skills Link Alliance is a marketplace. Skills Link Alliance is going, in its future state, will be a marketplace for skills for, again, governments, institutions, corporations, and individuals in future state to participate in, to promote skills and skill portfolios as these alternatives to the degree. So if you want to learn more about the Skills Link Alliance, then please reach out to me on my LinkedIn profile. I'll be happy to talk to you about getting connected. I also serve on the Talent and Organizational Development Council at the conference board, and I'm proud to say that I worked with them to connect some of the portfolio companies at the conference board with World Economic Forum to really grow the alliance. But before you get too excited, and the Ginsu knives do come with this, by the way. So, just kidding. That's my only joke of the presentation. You as a company, you will commit to adopting a common language for skills, and second is to recognize skill-based credentials. Third is to partner on skills delivery, and fourth is to champion skills delivery within your company. Yes, but wait, there's more. All right, so and then this slide is just more on the commitment, the championing, the connecting, the communicating, and the point I want to make here is that ultimately World Economic Forum has it in mind to certify companies, governments, and institutions as members of the Skills Link Alliance and recognize their work, kind of a badge that the company, institution, or government would use to show that they're members of that alliance and have adopted those ways of working. So, shift gears just a little bit. How is this going to work within your company? How do we bring this to life? In my book and in many of the things I've written for Chief Learning Officer magazine and other sources, I talk about the clay layer or the permafrost that lives within every small, medium, and large size organizations. And the permafrost or the clay layer are the middle managers, and it can even be senior managers or individual contributors who've become disillusioned. They believe in existing ways of working, their agility, their ability to ride the change management curve effectively has somehow been broken somewhere along the way. And thinking about the clay layer of any soil, rain and nutrients hits that clay layer and it just washes right off, or similar to permafrost. The nutrients don't sink down and embed within the organization. These are the people that you work with who believe that this too shall pass. This new innovation, this new way of working, if I just wait long enough, this too shall pass. It is those managers, it's the middle managers in your organization who need to begin to think differently about hiring, about talent pipelines, and about talent management generally. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with accidental managers who got their job because they were great at some technical skill, and they don't yet understand that coaching and mentoring is like the most important part of their job. It's like way at the top. And they spend very, very little time coaching and mentoring, especially with development conversations, and helping their people learn more to ultimately surpass them. So things like ego get in the way, and old systems and old ways of working. The other thing so the clay layer and the permafrost is not just people, but the permafrost is also systems and ways of working. So I'd like you to think about the job description right now. Okay? And how many job descriptions do you have in your company? How many different job roles do you have in your company? And under experience, what does it say for most of those job descriptions? Bachelor's degree required. Why? I'm a continuous improvement guy. Start asking yourself why, and keep asking yourself why until you get to the root cause of why it says bachelor's degree required for that job. My little sister is working for a major company in my hometown, and she's getting a bachelor's degree in like independent studies or something like that, just because she wants to move to the next layer of management in her job, and it says bachelor's degree required. So she's going to go get a bachelor's degree in something that's completely irrelevant to her job. What waste. She's going to be saddled with a pile of debt when she gets done. And is she really going to have the skills that are necessary for that next step in her career? And my answer is, I doubt it. So, and then now step back and think about performance evaluations. Performance evaluations in many companies are just perfunctory, compliance-based conversations that happen once a year. The manager is not a coach, not a mentor. The employee is sitting on the other side, sitting on their hands, just like I am, rocking back and forth, waiting for some negative shoe to drop about their performance. They're not listening. The manager doesn't know how to have the conversation. So my point on this slide is we have to start thinking about new ways of the HR and learning structures within our businesses. And that annual performance review, I believe very strongly that needs to be an annual talent review and a skills inventory conversation with the employee. Now, on my last slide, as I talk about those new ways of working, I'm working on, I published this in Chief Learning Officer magazine last December, but I'm working really hard on the concepts of skill inventories within businesses. Now, you've probably got some sort of competency map or competency system that you built for your company. And most of you would say that was like creating an air traffic control system that once it was launched, it was immediately irrelevant or not used by management because A, they didn't understand what it was all about, B, they don't know how to implement it, and C, they don't know how to link it with the development that needs to happen within the business. So I'm working in my workbook to Balancing Act. I'm working on a toolkit or a guide for you to build the process of skill inventorying into the planning and budgeting process for the business. I believe very strongly that you got to start with the North Star of the company. Then you do your long-range planning. As you're having that conversation, we've got to be thinking about the skills that are necessary for the future world of work. And then on an annual basis, review that list of skills and ensure that, just like you keep a capital budget, just like you build the annual budget P&L for your company, your business, your functional area, so too should you have a skills inventory for both new hires to map to and for existing hires to know very clearly how they can take steps forward by acquiring new skills that map to the North Star of the business. And with all of that, then and only then can skills come to life within your business as a viable alternative to the degree, and those skills have currency. So I have talked for precisely 32 minutes, a little bit longer than I expected. I would like to now shut up and stop sharing my screen.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Fantastic presentation. Fantastic discussion starter too. There's a million questions I have in my mind just because we're undergoing a lot of this at Walmart, and we are actually working with the WEF in some respects too. We do have a question starting out in the Q&A here. What does a portfolio of behavioral skills look like that Eric asked?
Yeah, so we're starting, we all those skills that I mentioned at the top, empathy, emotional intelligence can get broken down into 5 or 6 main component parts: conflict resolution, humility, creativity, adaptability. That's those headline topics. Those are the components of a behavioral skill portfolio. And I believe strongly that humans in the world of work in the future are going to need to be able to show that portfolio of their strengths and weaknesses in behavioral skilling exactly the same way that they do. I know digital marketing. I know how to code in Python. I know what Ruby on Rails is. There's way too much conversation happening about technical skills because, frankly, it's the easiest place to start.
Yeah.
And we're just starting to scratch the surface. I was in a wonderful, I recommend to this group that you look up an early stage company called Tailspin, Talespin. I just saw a demonstration of their AR, VR solution, and they're bending much more toward behavioral skill. And the future is going to, and this is the nut that has to be cracked, the future is going to be a validated portfolio of behavioral skills. How do I experientially show that I have empathy? And I've demonstrated that in the past, and that you should pay me more for my strong portfolio of behavioral skills.
So, Andrew, one question I have on that, because you touched on, I was actually going to follow this question with how do you validate them? And I'm wondering if any of the sort of behavioral assessments, like a Hogan, something like that, do those validate? Could those be used to validate these skills?
Yeah, I think that the psychometricians would, and no offense to psychometricians, but they would just fall all over themselves trying to figure out the 95 different reasons why Hogan is not a valid signal of I have built empathy as a skill. So while MBTI, while Hogan, while DISC, and the color wheel, etc., are wonderful, I believe those are wonderful tools for me to get to know myself better. And they're wonderful tools for me to start to understand how other people in my orbit think and feel. they are just one step. To me, they're discovery tools. They are not the experiential demonstration of the application of those skills in the world of work.
So that's the challenge for employers, is just to figure out a way to figure out a way to validate that. And maybe it's kind of how they're doing it now, right? I mean, when you're in an interview cycle, they're probably trying to pull this out if they're clever enough to do that just in the discussions. But
yeah, I've got a dear friend in Australia. She's a clinical psychologist, and she and I talk frequently about getting at the unfakeable self. And the problem with all of these, the MBTI and the Hogan and all of that, and everything that centers around interviewing is. And I've got another dear friend he spends a lot of time every time he tries to get, goes to get a new job, and he's fairly high level, but he's always thinking about what's the gotcha they're trying to, to get me on this question. He's way overthinking it. So we've got to find ways to get at that true unfakeable self. And that's another nut that has not yet been cracked.
Yeah. Now, Tina has a good question. What tools would you use to collect the skills portfolio inventory, or the skills inventory, so it doesn't take a year to develop and continuously adapt?
Yeah. So there are companies that are starting here. Eightfold.ai is one that comes to mind, that are starting the process of skill inventorying. But my recommendation is that this is not the place for a tool quite yet within your business, because we have way too many tools. Our HRIS stacks are miles high. Our HRIS technical stacks, they're miles high. Nobody knows how to use what we've got already. And if a company is just starting to embark on this, again, start at the North Star, start at the purpose and the vision of the company, then with the long range plan. And what are the top 4 or 5 skills? Make it a handful. Don't start with a competency map that's gonna be useless by the time it launches. Get started with a handful of skills, like data literacy. Might be one of the key skills that you need, or programming literacy. You'll notice I'm not using expertise. I'm using the concept of literacy here. And you start small and then go from there.
We're having that debate now about just a taxonomy, and there's a lot of folks who are pushing to get either a technology solution or buy a taxonomy off the shelf first. And then there are folks like myself who just really want to identify some critical jobs and do that role deconstruction. And just the other day, I took a role for a manager in our e-commerce space, just an area manager, manages multiple departments, and the 3-page job description that had about 30 bullets of 3 to 4 sentences each bullet on it. I deconstructed it based on those skills that were called out, and it got to literally definitely 1 page with about 8 bullets.
Yeah.
And if you really if you go through the experience of deconstructing some of your own job descriptions that you have right now, I think that'll give you a good understanding of what you're what you're facing. Now, granted, at scale, you can't deconstruct all your job descriptions by hand. But when I ran that original job description through one of the online tools, it came up with 13 competencies and about 120 skills. And so that's what your tools are going to give you right now.
Yeah. So yeah, it's going to put it as succinctly as possible, it's going to inject unnecessary complexity into your organizational design, and none of us need additional unnecessary complexity. My recommendation, in addition to starting with the North Star, getting a handful of skills, is also when I talk about energizing the clay layer and getting middle, the only way this is really going to come to life is by getting middle management involved, is to make the job description an actual living document that you review and talk with your people about on more than when you hire them. If you went into your organization and did a poll of the last time that anybody in your organization actually looked at a job description that wasn't in HR or learning, so take that population out, and focus on everybody else. And I would venture to guess that they haven't looked at the job description since they were hired, and instead turn that job description into that skill inventory document that maps to those master skills. That's the way to make this as easy and as practical as possible. I don't think you need new tools to make this happen.
Great. Fantastic. Now, another question here. If the skills are going to be changing every 5 to 7 years, how are organizations planning to keep continuously adapting?
Yeah, my opinion, that is why this concept of a skill inventory needs to be part of the annual budgeting cycle of the company. Because once the skills that are needed for the next 3 to 5 years are part of a natural conversation and cadence, which is at the same level of importance as operating income and revenue and expense control and capital spending, then you're going to get those natural conversations. And moreover, we talk a good game, most of us, by saying, "Oh, the most valuable asset in our company is our people." We say those words all the time. But when it comes down to organizational planning, people planning is one of the first things to go. It's one of the first meetings that gets canceled on the docket, and so this skill conversation needs to be right aligned with your budget. And I know the finance people will go, "We can't handle another thing," but if your people are really your most valuable asset, you have to.
Yeah. Fantastic. I think we have time. How are we doing on time? I think we're okay. Let's ask one more here.
Yeah, one more.
Would an integrated talent experience platform be a way to connect skills, career opportunities, performance, and development all in one place?
Yeah. Platforms and tools, Degreed is a cool thing. But again, we got way too much unnecessary complexity, and we're all looking for that magic, that silver bullet of the tool that's somehow gonna make this all sing. And again, I think you already have it if you got Workday and you've got your job description sitting in Workday, just energizing your management layers to pay attention to job descriptions, make them living documents, have those more than annual development conversations, make performance reviews an ongoing conversation instead of some big scary thing, and so toss out your existing job descriptions, rewrite them as practical living documents. You're going to be a long way toward the finish line.
Great. Fantastic. I think we are at time, Andrew. I really do appreciate your expertise in sharing with our organization. It was a really fantastic talk. and appreciate your time.
Thanks, Brandon.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And